Good morning, everyone. This is John Pendleton with Enertech. I'm your trainer today, and we're going to cover the combination board in the obviously the combination unit. It's not a super long webinar, so I won't have you here for an hour today, probably maybe half an hour or so. So we'll go ahead and get started on this combination board. We'll do a little bit of how it works and a little bit of the wiring on it. This is our tech support team, so if you have any questions about today's webinar or just questions on our geothermal units in general, you can contact us. Most of us work 8 to 5. Rob is on the East Coast, so he actually works 7 to 4. He works 8 to 5 his time, but 7 to 4 due to the time change. We're on Central Time here in Illinois. But we have Kip, Rob, Jim, and myself, and we actually have another gentleman named is Dave Pergel. He's kind of new. He's handling a lot of our Canadian dealers and reps up there, and he's just started here recently. We also have a gentleman coming starting in, I believe, in May, maybe April, just depends on it. He's an instructor right now, so he's waiting on those classes to end, but he'll be starting with us. And his name is Kern Wildhaber. You may recognize that name. He worked with us about 5 years ago. Excuse me. If you need to contact tech support, there's a direct line to tech support. That's 664-5860, and that'll ring over to all the techs in support. And if you've been working, let's say, with Rob on a project and you want to speak with him again and you don't have his direct line, you can always ask for anyone in particular that you would like to talk to. If they're available, we'll have no problem sending them over to you. We have an email address as well for tech support. If you have any pictures or anything that you'd like us to take a look at, maybe a startup form, you can email it in to technical services and then give us a call and we'll pull it up out of there and take a look at it with you. We obviously have our own email accounts as well. Most of them are always going to be the @enertechgeo.com. So our email addresses are basically our first and last name with a period in between. So like my email address is john.pendleton@enertechgeo.com. Rob's is rob.shawless@enertechgeo.com. We do have an after hours phone. It's listed down there at the bottom, 618-267-1768. And that'll obviously it rotates between all of us, and it's we usually use that phone after 5:30 p.m. and before 7:30 a.m. We're not in the office, so we may have limited access to things, but we'll do our best to give you a hand. There's again myself, the senior trainer here at Enertech. I started out in tech support and worked there and did training there for a long time. I've kind of, with more and more trainings we have, we needed a full-time trainer. So I've kind of moved to that position. I still work in tech support, do a lot of job site visits, and deal with warranty calls quite a bit too. So if you have training that you would like for your company and you don't see it on our website or something, please give me a call. With a lot of these online webinars and trainings and things, I can always piece something together, whether you want a 15-minute webinar or you want an all-day event. So definitely reach out to me. There's my direct line, 690-3275, or you can definitely call the tech support number as well. We do use a modular approach in our units. You've probably seen some other manufacturers and some of ours in the past where we use a double stack board, one main board for all the operations, and they can get quite costly. So we've kind of gone to a modular approach in our units. So the combination unit, it's going to have all 3 of these boards in it. But if one fails, you don't have to replace all of them. You just replace the single board. Again, on these boards, the units are going to have the same lockout codes, and our thermostat wiring is consistent. Obviously, it's cheaper to replace just one board. So anytime we have a combination unit, we're going to have an ECM fan board, we're going to have a lockout board, and we're going to have the combination board. We'll have all three of those boards. Depending on the type of unit, you could have one, two, or all three of the boards. So basically the combination board, it's kind of like the traffic cop. So if you get a forced air call, you've got your hot water call, your HW call, and then your forced air, which would be a Y1 and a G call. So if they're both calling at the same time, we cannot do both at the same time. We can do one or the other. So the combination board is there to choose if you get two calls at the same time based on dip switch settings, and we'll cover those here in just a minute. But it's going to decide. So if they're both calling at the same time, which one gets the priority? Hot water or your hydronic heating or your forced air. This is the combination board, so the calls are going to come in on the left side of the board here. So O is your input for your cooling reversing valve. W is your electric heat. G is your fan. Y1 is your compressor. Y2 is second stage of that compressor. HW is your hot water or your aquastat call. And then you've got a common and a power. And then these are outputs on top. So a Y1 out will go to the contactor, tell the compressor to run. And O will go to the reversing valve, G to the fan, Y2 to your second stage solenoid. And then your HW, it says REV, which is the hot water valve, which chooses, we consider it a directional valve, but it looks just like a reversing valve, but that's the HW terminal. It'll energize those valves. There's two valves. And then it's going to have some power lights on it, a power light on it, and some status lights. We do have a status chart in the IOM, and we'll take a quick look at that here in a minute. And it'll tell you where your calls are and what they're doing here. That's these four lights down here below. You should always have a power light blinking or flashing. And then this little box here in the middle of the board, that is your dip switch setting for choosing priority. So whether that's forced air priority, hot water priority, again, we got a chart in the IOM, and we'll go over that here in a minute on how to choose the priorities. So from the factory, the unit comes with hot water priority. That's the default mode. So in hot water priority, obviously the load heat exchanger is going to be the one that we're using. So when we're in hot water priority, we have our directional valve and our three-way valve are energized. Because basically this is the discharge of the compressor. We're going to divert that refrigerant to the load heat exchanger. We're going to go through the load, back through. Now this valve is going to be energized, so we isolate the air coil, so we're not pumping refrigerant through the air coil. We're going to bypass the air coil, go through the TXV in the dryer, go through the source heat exchanger, then through the reversing valve and back to the unit on the suction. We can do hot water priority with electric heat. And so then you would be, doing the load hot water or water heating, hydronic heating, and then you would have your electric strip heater would come on and your fan would run. So they could still have heat on the forced air side while they're running the hot water circuit. When we're in hot water priority, the compressor is in second stage. Basically, we're trying to eliminate that call as quickly as possible, get as much heat to that water. So it'll always run in second stage. Forced air priority is just that. There's no valves that are energized. It's just your discharge is gonna come out of the compressor. And you can see in this picture, it looks like we have two reversing valves. This first reversing valve off the compressor, if you have two, is actually a directional valve. Now, it is the exact same part number as this reversing valve here, but they are doing two separate things. It's the same type of scenario. It'll energize it and slide over. But one, we're directing the refrigerant to the circuit we want, and the reversing valve chooses heating or cooling. So in forced air priority, no valves are energized. So discharge comes out, goes through the directional valve, goes through the reversing valve. Now we're going through the source coax, through the filter dryer, through the TXV, through the three-way valve, and we're going to go to the air coil, and then out of the air coil through the reversing valve back to the compressor on the suction. So when the directional valve and the three-way valve are not energized, they're going to close off and direct the refrigerant to the air coil. When they're energized, we're going to direct that refrigerant to the load heat exchanger. And cooling, obviously the reversing valve is energized. Now this is shown in all the IOMs, but if you ever have any questions on what you think you should set it at, don't ever hesitate to call us. We'll ask you a few questions: how much radiance on the home, how much forced air is on it, and we'll kind of get an idea of what's going on, and we'll give you our recommendation. Now, these can always be changed if you don't like how they're set up or the homeowner doesn't. We can always go back and change them. It's not a big deal. But again, it's going to come hot water priority from the factory. So we have hot water priority, which is in that mode, the fan is off during a hot water mode, regardless of a G call. So if they circulate their fan, on a low setting, if you have it in hot water priority, it will not turn that fan on. We do have hot water priority with electric heat, and the fan is going to be off in hot water mode, except if the electric heat is calling. Then we have forced air priority, which is just that, except the fan is off during a hot water mode, regardless of a G call. So no fan, no circulating fan running when there's a HW call. We have shared priority, where it checks every 20 minutes. So if it's running in hot water mode, and after 20 minutes, there is a forced air call, it will look at that call and go ahead and switch over. Then we have it shared priority every 30 and every 40 minutes. Those are all fan off when it's in hot water mode. I would not recommend using the shared priorities. The problem we have with that is sometimes we'll get to where the unit never gets downtime because it's always shifting back and forth to the different priorities or the different heating calls. Then we start to run low or high loop temperatures, depending on the mode. Obviously in heating mode, when we're heating that water, the loop doesn't get time to kind of recoup. So I try to stay away from these shared priorities. The majority of the time, we're going to use these, the ones that are here in the middle. We've got a hot water priority, which would be your aquastat, and a fan every time there's a G call. So it doesn't matter what mode it's in. If there's a G call, it's going to run your fan. And then we have hot water priority with electric heat backup. So if your hot water is your priority and you get a forced air call, it'll run your electric heat. That's a pretty popular way of doing it. And then we have forced air priority. So these are the three that we were probably going to stick with for the majority of the time. Again, some more shared priorities with the fan running. And then we can do a factory test on that board if we have them all off. But that's, I'm not going to get into that today. If there's a problem with the board, just give us a call and we'll take a look at it. We do have some lights on the board. We showed that power light. Again, it should be on all the time. And then depending on which lights are on, it's going to tell you what mode of operation it's in. So if the power LED, obviously it should be on all the time. If your amber light is off, your yellow light is flashing one time, the red is on, and the green is flashing once, then you're in heating stage 1. I'm not going to go through all of these today because you can take a look at them, but it'll tell you, what mode it's in. It'll even tell you if the fan only is running. So it'll kind of let you know what it sees, and then you can check your voltages coming into the board and maybe see if we're dropping a call, if the board's not recognizing a call, that kind of thing. So we'll use these lights to help us kind of troubleshoot the board. The time delay on the board. Here is a lockout board and a combination board. The combo's got this red box on it. The lockout board has a 5-minute time delay. So whenever you shut off the unit or the Y call goes away, you're gonna have a 5-minute anti-short cycle. The combination board has a 2-minute time delay. If both of these are in time delay together, they'll run together. So it'll only be a 5-minute time delay. When we're switching from hot water mode to forced air, or from forced air heating to forced air cooling, this combination board does have a 2-minute time delay. When it happens, the lockout board's not affected. There won't be a 5-minute time delay. You'll only have a little 2-minute time delay on the combination board when it's switching. And it's that way if it's switching from hot water mode to forced air or forced air to hot water mode, it will let the unit shut down, wait 2 minutes, and then it'll turn back on. You shut the power off to the unit, turn it back on, the lockout board is now reset and it's going to go through a 5-minute. So when we're switching modes of the combo unit, just a 2-minute time delay. Here's kind of a wiring diagram. I know it's a little bit blurry and pulled out a little bit, but I just basically wanted, right here in the middle of the of this picture is your combination board right here. I know it's kind of hard to see. There's a lot going on in here. But basically, on the left side of that board, these are all your inputs. So you have O, it's basically coming from your thermostat connections. And so is your W, your G, your Y1, Y2, then your HW comes from your accessory connection. And then this is a common, and then power to the board. So O is your cooling reversing valve, W is electric heat, G is your fan, Y1 is your first stage compressor, Y2 is second stage, HW is your aquastat, your hydronic side heating, then you got a common, and then power. The top of the board, these are your outputs. So this HW is your that is your directional valve. The HWREV is your reversing valve, or excuse me, that's the common for it. Then you have your load pump relay for that. Then you have your Y2 second stage compressor, your W for your electric heat. Your first stage compressor is your Y1 out. O is your cooling or your reversing valve. And then these two over here are commons. And then you have your fan, your G. So these are all outputs on top, inputs on the bottom. There's no fuse on this board. The only fuse we have in the system as far as the low voltage controls is on the ECM board right near where your transformer comes in. There's a little purple, little 3-amp fuse that comes in. So again, inputs on the left, outputs on the top. And then your priority dip switch right there in the middle of the board. So when we're diagnosing, a lot of times what we'll do if you don't seem to be getting a call, obviously check between Y1 and common and make sure you have a call. And also look at your HW and common, that's your aquastat. You basically have two thermostats in this system, one sensing air, one sensing water. So just make sure we have a call. If for some reason you don't have a call here at your terminal strips, you can always jumper R to HW and give it a call, or R to Y1, and it'll give the board a call as well. Then you can kind of see what's going on. We do have a removable terminal strip on these thermostat and accessory connections. So you can remove that terminal strip and jumper out the unit. So it's not a whole lot to the combo board, but you got to know how to set it up properly and diagnose it. So again, inputs on the left, outputs on the top of the board. Lights to kind of help you diagnose that. So with that, that's basically the gist of the combination board. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. One thing I will say about the combination unit, if you have a lot of radiant and a little bit of forced air, maybe you're just doing all radiant and then you want to do some forced air cooling, I would not recommend the combination unit. I would recommend either a water-to-water unit with a hydronic fan coil or 2 separate units. If we get it into where we're doing a lot of forced air with the unit and a lot of radiant, it's best to have 2 separate units. We just don't get any downtime on the unit, and we tend to run warm or colder loop temperatures, which is definitely harder on the compressor, and we can have compressor failures. So if you're ever looking at the combination unit, give us a call and we'll kind of discuss what you've got going on, what's out there at the home, and then we'll let you know if we really feel that if the combination unit is a good idea for you or not. So with that, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If not, thanks for joining and have a great day.